Welcome back to Memories of a Musician. I'm your host, Vito DeSalvo. Once again, this evening, we have a great program for you featuring a wonderful music educator, a composer and arranger, and a musician. He's a trumpet player. His name is Devon Smeal. And I had the pleasure and honor of working with Devon for about 12 years before I retired from the West Mifflin Area School District. So he was in our district, and he is now, when I read his bio, he's now the music department head. So he basically took my position a couple of years after I had retired from that. Devon, really a multifaceted musician. And it's unbelievable, but in all the years that we were in the same building, just, in the same hallway, I never got any pictures with Devon. I have one picture that I'd like to share with you, and this is a picture when Fred Danchenko, who's right in the front there with the sport jacket. Fred retired from the district, and when he retired, we had a little party for him, and this was a picture that we took, and actually two of us at the time of this picture were already retired, and that would be Ed Hansack, who's on the far left, and myself on the far right. And you see Devon dead center in the middle in the back row there with the, I guess it's pink shirt. My color blindness is hitting me, but I think it's a pink shirt there. And then you see all the other members of the department who are still currently teaching. Tim Milko, Devon, of course, Jeff Kesser, And then Craig Stanley, you see there, and Melissa Protz. They're all still teaching. Fred now is retired, and of course, Ed and I are retired. So I had that picture. That's the only picture I found in thousands of pictures of where Devon and I were in the same picture. It's pretty interesting. So I put together a little montage of some pictures of Devon and some music that Devon both arranged and played on. He's playing in all of these. And there's, I think, 3 different songs. And so give you some taste of the different things that Devon does and has been involved in. So let me play this montage for you. And there you go. A lot of different styles of music there. So now I would like to give you a little background on Devon Smeal. Devon Smeal has been a staple of the West Mifflin Area School District music program since 1996, where he currently serves as the music department head. Devon is a graduate of Baldwin High School and holds both a bachelor's in music education and a master's degree in music theory and composition from Indiana University of Pennsylvania. Beyond the classroom, Devon stays deeply immersed in the Pittsburgh music scene. He serves as the coordinator of music at Hamilton Presbyterian Church and performs regularly with the Hot Metal Brass Band and William Dell and the Wee Jams. His versatile performance history also includes sets with Right Turn Clyde, Magic, and the Pittsburgh Doo-Wop Big Band. Devon Smeal is a multifaceted musician balancing a career in teaching, performance, and arranging. He frequently crafts custom arrangements for his performing ensembles and, when time permits, focuses his creative energy on original composition. Most recently, Devon composed the orchestral and choral work, His Kingdom Come, a piece commissioned to honor George McClintock's 50-year legacy as organist and choir director at Hamilton Presbyterian Church in Pittsburgh. Devon resides in Baldwin with his wife, Amy, and their two children, Morgan and Carter. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to bring Devon onto the program, and here he is. Hi, Devon. How you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay today.
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, you're quite welcome. It's good to have you on. I haven't really, haven't seen you in a while. I can't believe it. I've been retired from the school district. This June will be 18 years.
That's crazy. It seems like it's only been a couple of years.
And how about you? What year are you in teaching? Just wondering.
I think this is my 30th because I started in 96, 97. So
you're getting up there, yeah.
Yeah.
How about that? That's awesome. So before we get too far in, I wanted to ask you, what was your first instrument, and when did you start in music? And what was your inspiration to start a musical instrument?
Sure. Well, like most kids probably of my era, the third grade spring, the elementary band director, who was Mr. Slotnick at Sickman School in Baldwin, which is long since been gone at this point, but came in and handed us papers with a picture of the instruments on it, and you circled the ones you like. You're supposed to take it home and talk to your parents, and did the demonstration, and then you start in fourth grade. But I took it home, and I think I circled the saxophone as number 1 and the trumpet as number 2. And my dad said, well, your great grandfather's trumpet is in the attic, so you're playing the trumpet.
There you go.
Luckily, the trumpet still worked, and
that's the question I was going to ask you.
Yeah, that one has been officially retired. It's a prop for West Mifflin now. That original one, but I think it's my great grandfather's cornet that I had refurbished, and it plays pretty well. You have to have the tuning slide all the way in to be close to in tune still, but it's a nice horn and stayed in great shape.
So were you in like fourth grade about that time when you started?
Right. Started in fourth grade on the trumpet. And it's funny because, nobody in my family was really a musician. My grandfather on my mom's side played by ear. And then, like I said, it was generations before that that had actually, played anything, but nobody was a professional. Some people played in school, like my dad played the trumpet a little bit in school, and thus that's why we had that in our attic. But it was one of those things that just, I was lucky. It was natural to me, and I found out later from a private teacher, Danny Rose, that I was successful right away on the trumpet because of the shape of my 2 front teeth and the angle. And he told me when I was going to get braces that he basically was going to threaten the life of the orthodontist and dentist if they didn't keep those front teeth at that V angle.
I understand that.
Best advice I've ever gotten for $2.50 a lesson.
Oh, that's funny. And so when would you say that music, I'm going to show a picture, but tell me when you think that music became a passion. This is you marching. You're right there on the end, right?
Yeah, right there.
You marching with your high school band, which was the Baldwin
Fighting Highlanders. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember. I can remember one quick story. When I was first the marching band director, and we had combined our 2 high schools to one, and we had exhibition game because Baldwin was a
4A, right? Yeah.
a high school, WPIAL, and where West Mifflin at that time was a 3, I think a 3A. And so we weren't really matched up to play, but we had an exhibition game and let's go out. And was it Don Huckle was the band director then?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and they wore kilts.
Right.
And there had to be, 300 kids on the field. I mean, it was like huge. And we were very intimidated by the band, the Baldwin band, It was pretty funny. I mean, most of the bands we saw after that in our category were pretty small compared to us. But that particular band, I remember us being like, wow,
Yeah, my aunt and uncle both played in Baldwin's band, and my mom was a majorette. So it was a little bit of musical tradition there.
Long tradition, right?
So, but yeah, those bands were huge. They would fill the entire sideline and march onto the bagpipes, and it's kind of weird though, and I don't know the history of this. Maybe someone will watch this and tell me, but the school colors, as long as I was in Baldwin, were purple and white. And you see the band uniforms were red and black, and I just never, now they're all purple and white, but we would get the folders to start the year and they'd be purple and white, but our band uniforms were black and red. It's an interesting thing there, but no, I mean, that picture's good because, I had a passion. You don't know you have a passion, but when I was younger, I picked up the instrument and it came naturally to get a sound. And my mom always tells me before I even could get a real clear sound, I was playing the children's songs like Mary Had a Little Lamb. But, I can remember having a passion for playing and enjoying that I was among the best, and, just stumbled upon things because I didn't have much guidance until my uncle heard me play in middle school and said, you need to take lessons off of Danny Rose. But I went in, I remember my mom was a big Dallas fan, the evening soap opera. And it's like a trumpet concerto. I can't remember which one, but that's the opening. And I just picked it up by ear. I watched the thing, and then they made us go to bed before the show came on, but I'd always hear the TV on the other side of the wall. So I pulled my trumpet out, like the smart aleck I am, and start playing the theme song. Well, then it would be how I warmed up in 7th grade band until finally the band director, Mrs. Tedder, said, do you know what you're playing? And I was like, yeah, it's the theme to Dallas. She goes, no, you're playing a high C. I was like, oh, I don't know what a high C is. I'm 7th grader that's stumbling my way through playing the trumpet. So
that's pretty good. 7th grade play high C. That's pretty good.
Yeah. But anyway, I mean, so many things along the way, but you asked about passion for music. And I have to say, as a freshman, I got a trumpet solo in a halftime show, which I didn't really expect to get. When I auditioned, it was just because they say, anyone want to play it for me and audition, and I did. But and then as a sophomore, I was the trumpet captain, and that's what really, looking back, they would have the captains do sectional rehearsals and student leadership. And when I was afraid to do it, quite honestly, because I was small as a high school kid anyway. I didn't hit a growth spurt till I was a junior, but band kids aren't super threatening, but everyone was bigger than me. Everyone was older than me. And when we did the sectional and I started showing them how to play things, like the section got better. Like I was like, wow, how does this happen? And so, looking back, that was kind of my inspiration. Like, oh, maybe I can teach music, but
there you go. Well, I have another picture that I think, and you were now at IUP, but I think this might have given you some inspiration too.
Absolutely. Yeah. The Doc Severinsen, man, I was really fortunate at IUP. Dr. Gary Bird was the jazz band director, but really the whole school's philosophy, they brought in so many guest artists. And funny story about that, Roy Mitchell arranged Begin the Beguine. And that's what Doc was playing for me there. And he starts playing it, and his eyesight wasn't great. And Roy had taken it down a step, so the high A at the end would be a high G above C, and just to kind of put it in a range for the college trumpet section. And he looked at us and he went, I don't think that's how this was arranged. You couldn't tell if he was kind of being tongue in cheek and knew, or if he was just kind of like, but I have a feeling he knew. But boy, to learn from someone like that, I mean, you stood next to him and it sounded like a wind tunnel. You hardly heard any pitch. And then I had asked him about it and he said, walk out to the edge of the proscenium. So I walked about 8 feet in front of him. And man, it like parted my hair, the sound coming from his horn. And he's like, that's the amount of air you need to use. It doesn't matter how you sound right next to you. It matters how you sound out there.
That's right.
But I had such a great time with the guest artists there. They would allow us to work the green room. And I sat backstage with Harry Connick Jr. and took a lesson from Leroy Jones, and got to, hang out with Doc Severinsen. I was sitting in his dressing room, and I was nervous to ask him because I'm not really an autograph guy, but like I had Doc Severinsen cassette tapes that I would learn to play along with. I remember playing Blues in the Night verbatim with him so I'm sitting there and I have this CD and I have a silver ink paint pen that you have to like push the tip down to get paint on it. And I asked him if he can sign the CD, and it's all black with just his bright rainbow socks. And I said, this is a silver pen, so you'll be able to see it. And he said, oh yeah, I'd be glad to sign it. And I said, you have to push the tip in, and I pushed it for him, and it got like the first letter, then wore out. And he starts shaking this silver pen. And the paint is going all over his fruit platter and all over his deli tray. And I'm like panicking. But I did get the autograph. So.
That's a good story. I like it. So after college, you went back as an assistant at Baldwin and also at Brentwood during that, or maybe during college, huh?
During, yeah. I was kind of shocked that Mr. Timmons let me come back to Baldwin because I was such a clown in high school. But he, as a music educator, I realize now that you put those things behind you and give kids an opportunity. And
sure,
that I was really happy to do that. And Tom Booth was. He had a band much like West Mifflin, so that was great experience. That Brentwood band, when I helped, I think they had like 25 trumpets in their band the year that I helped him as the brass coordinator, and the couple years that I helped him, and a real good experience for a young student to work with those bands. And
sure.
I did drill for Baldwin more than anything, and did brass for Tom Booth at Brentwood, and then he hired me for a summer program. So when I came to West Mifflin, I had already worked summer programs and had an idea of how those things worked as well. So they were very helpful.
I don't know if you knew this, but Tom Booth was a West Mifflin graduate.
I did, yeah. And then his son Alan did our percussion for a year.
Yeah. He's a little bit older than me, but I remembered the name and I remembered him. And so at some point, I guess during college, you transferred to a military band. Tell us about that.
Actually, I transferred. So, my family in high school was, a little bit financial hardships, and it was kind of a tough time figuring out what I wanted to do for school. You know how it is probably, as a musician, and a lot of musicians can relate. When you say, I want to go into music, people say, no, you don't. You definitely don't want to do that. So, I started questioning that, and I was fortunate to have a really great stepdad who, got me a job as a runner and a gopher for an attorney, because I was thinking about law school and pre-law, and I really enjoyed that. But I realized the research that was involved and the sitting in the law library and all that, like my second year doing that, the attorney gave me a lot of other duties that I wouldn't think I would have had as a runner or a gopher. And it really was helpful too, because I realized this is not for me.
Yeah.
My stepdad was very helpful, because when I was looking at school, he suggested that I go into the military, because I was really considering a gap year, because I was just confused about what I wanted to do.
I see.
And that was great advice, because I went from not such a great student to being very close to a 4.0 in both my bachelor's and my master's degree. So, I mean, I would not have done that without the military discipline and experience. But I went to the Army for actually computer programming. And I finished 4th in my battalion, and was very successful. But again, it was not for me. It was, it wasn't active enough. And man, those 8 weeks of basic training, I missed my trumpet. I missed playing the piano. I missed the music. And so my mom brought my horn down to graduation from basic training, and I actually picked it up and started practicing. And another soldier at AIT heard me playing the trumpet and had his family send his down, and we played duets. And I started playing. So when that's me. I'm actually walking to play at a wedding between basic training and AIT. There was a fellow soldier in my battalion that was getting married, so I practiced a little bit, and got my chops back enough to play one song. And I actually played piano on the other songs for him, because I didn't have the chops to play more than one. After 8 weeks of not playing, it takes a toll.
That's a nice picture, actually, even though it's the back of you and not the front of you. It's just a nice picture.
Right. Yeah. I think my mom took that as I was walking. But yeah, I mean, I was actually at Baldwin's band camp as the drill tech, and put in to audition for the Army band. And the guy came there, "Can I come to where you're working?" And I said I got permission, and we stood in the choral room, and I went through the audition, and they even had me improvise a little over blues changes and everything. And I passed the audition. And do you want to go active duty or something else? So I looked at 2 reserve units, and I chose the one in Morgantown and transferred to that. And again, just a very valuable experience. When you're in a reserve unit, it was actually National Guard. You do everything. Like in a regular unit, I don't know exactly how it goes, but talking to some friends that did that, you kind of have your niche, your job. In the reserve unit, I had my original reserve unit. I got about 6 or 8 driver's licenses, because I was in charge of computers. And when you go to the reserve unit, you're just, how can I say, it's not as technologically advanced as active duty. So they put me in personnel and finance. I just checked people into the camp where they're learning the 2-week AIT. They're learning to drive vehicles. It was a reserve forces school. So they're getting licensed on the Humvee or the personnel carrier or all these different vehicles. So I showed up to my band unit with a driver's license where I could drive a school bus, a 5-ton truck, like all these. So I was like a gold mine. So they put me on the 5-ton truck. Well, that also makes you one of the people that checks the equipment in and is the load master. And you drive to the gigs with all the sound equipment and instruments and everything on it. And and then band wise, I'm playing in the concert band. I was the drum major in the marching unit. I played second trumpet in the jazz band, played in the jazz combo, and when there were funerals, I played taps. So it was like you do a little bit of everything. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So let's talk about when you started teaching, and about, one of the things, and we all as teachers experience having certain students that really excel and do well. And I have a picture, one of your students, with one of your students. And I believe that's Kelly Mosick, huh?
Yeah, that's Kelly Mosick now
Who's
of
a
the
wonderful oboe player these days with what,
and
Charleston
violin. But
Symphony?
yeah, she's with the Charleston Symphony Orchestra
That's what I
now.
thought.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, doing
That's
great
great.
things. Yeah.
You're pretty young there too. Was that the beginning?
Boy, yeah. I mean, I'm
Really?
trying to think of when she graduated, but that was very early, like possibly my first or second year. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be like 2000, 2001.
There was another oboe player from West Mifflin High School who did pretty well. Her name was Jen Denny, I think.
Yeah, I was going to beat you to that. Yeah, yeah, Jen
Okay.
Denny. Yeah.
Yeah, she was an oboe player too. So one day I was sitting at home and I had sent a piece, one of my compositions with the copyright office to get copyrighted. And I get a call, and here it's Jen Denny, and she works at the Library of Congress in the copyright office. And her job is to go through the applications and see if there's anything wrong, or missing or whatever. And she had to call me about one particular little issue. And I'm like, was blown away because here's a former student that's in the copyright office in Washington, D.C. We've had a lot of students come out of West Mifflin.
A lot. I mean, I'm very, proud of how many students. I mean, and I watched some of your episodes, and Brandon Barnes a couple episodes ago played with the Hot Metal Brass, and so many kids, even when I was getting my master's at IUP and I would write things, and I was traveling from marching band to IUP. So I didn't have connections there to get, or time to get people at IUP to play my pieces. And so quite often, and I was fortunate enough to have really strong seniors and juniors like, Craig Stanley, Binks, Kelly later, Brandon Barnes. I'm trying to think of all the students that have played things for me. But I'll leave people out if I start listing too many, so I guess I won't go too far. But I remember, and you probably couldn't do this today, us caravanning up to IUP because one of my pieces, it was called A Train Bound for Nowhere. It was an exercise in chromaticism in my composition class. And Dr. Perlonga said, you need to do something that's chromatic. And so, the chromatic pieces don't really go anywhere, until for most of it. So I called it A Train Bound for Nowhere, but it was a no-net. And it took a while to teach it to West Mifflin students, but we caravanned up to IUP because I made the departmental recital, which was like an honor position for your piece or for anything. And, everyone else had college students playing, but, my piece was these 9 high school students playing this no-net. And it was like, looking back on that, I think, man, why did I do that, first of all? And how did I pull that off that it was successful, but just such great students to, and, a lot of them are still playing, some of them still playing with me. I know Zach Wiesinger just reached out and asked if I have time at some point that we could collaborate on something. And
he's going to be a guest sometime in the summer, I think.
Oh, cool. All
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There's also a lot of music educators that came out of our program that went into teaching more so than performing, but really great teachers and have done great work.
Absolutely. I mean,
you taught marching band, stage band, music technology. You taught orchestra, general music, and now you're teaching a program called STEAM, which is where kids build their own instruments. We're going to talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
Before I do, I want to show a couple other pictures. When you had the marching band, this was the Starlets, which was the dance line. And it's funny because it's a funny picture, a cute picture, but I recognize some of these kids because
You should, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Brandon's sister is in the upper left.
Yep.
Brandon Barnes, that's Jesse Barnes. And I do breakfast duty every morning with Stacy Gallius, who was Stacy Steinmeier. In this picture, she's right over my way we're looking at it, left shoulder, but I guess that's my right shoulder. Brandy Nicolai.
Right there, with the blonde hair. And then in the far right, is that Milena Capuzzi?
And Milena Capuzzi is in the far right, yeah.
That's interesting because I just glanced at this picture. I said, wow, some familiar faces there, you know?
Right. Isn't it crazy? Yeah.
Yeah. And then I have this picture I want to show. You're conducting, now you wouldn't know this, but you're actually conducting, was it in 2001 for George W. Bush?
It was, yeah, he would have been running for his second term, and he was speaking at the USS Irving Works down there, the Bettis, I guess. And boy, that was an adventure. I arranged Yellow Rose of Texas was the song they wanted. His walk-up song, so to speak. And boy, going in, I mean, I've never seen instruments in so many pieces. They ran the security took everything apart and ran them through this makeshift kind of machine like you'd have at the airport with the TSA, and ran cameras up the tubing of the sousaphones. And I mean, it took us forever to get in there. The kids were exhausted before we even started playing.
Yeah. Then I have this picture here, and this is in New York City. You took a trip with the band to New York.
Yeah.
And I think, is that the USS Intrepid? It's
It is. So the funny story about that is they were having trouble getting people to go to New York after 9/11. And so I got a call. You do parades, and at that time we were winning the Veterans Day parades in downtown Pittsburgh. It was us and North Allegheny and a couple other bands that were always at the top. And they called and said, would you come to the nation's Veterans Day parade in New York City? And we were looking to do an off-year trip between Florida trips, and I ran it past the band parents and the staff, and everybody was game. When I found out that we could apply to be one of the bands that were part of the memorial, they take like 3 bands to be on the USS Intrepid. And I found out that it was the USS Intrepid, and our VFW post is the Intrepid post, because a lot of the founders of that post were on that ship during World War II. And you see Walt Kudzma's in the center of the screen there. And just a really fun day because Walter was on that. Everyone called him Pappy. He conducted the band at the third quarter break a lot of times, and he would fire up the crowd with a bullhorn. And he got on that ship where he lived for probably years, definitely months. He went just right past the security, climbed over the red velvet rope like he was a teenager again, and went down below deck. And I looked wide-eyed at the people there that were like in charge of the museum and the Intrepid, and the lady puts her hand on one of the security guys and says, "It's okay, he's home." Yeah. So it was really cool. He showed us where a kamikaze went through the deck. He knew the history.
Yeah,
he could have toured people through it. It was incredible.
Well, I remember him. I remember him.
That was a very emotional parade too. I mean, people in New York coming out to shake my hand, and I got hugs from strangers in New York that parade. So
it's crazy. So then this was you took the band, of course, to the Magic Kingdom in Orlando, Disney World. And this was one shot that we have. And what year would that have been, Devon?
That one might have been, I think it was 2004.
Okay.
But boy, we went every other year for my whole career, starting with Ed Hansack when I was his assistant, and we did other trips. We had some really good times with other trips, and it was such an honor to be in the Magic Kingdom, and no matter how they changed it, sometimes it went forward, sometimes backwards, sometimes it was at night, sometimes it was in the afternoon, but always so many people there. And I remember one of my later parades, Disney had an idea where they changed it where you could do a standstill routine and actually do drill on the parade. But you have those trolley tracks, first of all, which was a challenge. And second of all, there's equal amounts of people on both sides. So I'm like, how are we going to do this? So my staff and I came up with a plan to do just like 2 drill moves and end up in like a double helix, like DNA, you know, so that everyone would be facing, you'd have the band split evenly, but it would look cool and people would, you know, enjoy it. And I always let the kids vote on our second parade song. And they voted for It's My Life by Bon Jovi. It was really popular. And I had arranged it for the band as part of a Bon Jovi halftime show. And the problem was I always did stock arrangements at Disney, so I didn't have to deal with copyright. And all of a sudden I'm like, well, this is like on the Billboard charts and there's nobody has arranged it yet. And I can't really play this at Disney. So I think I feel like I came to you and asked how I would go about that because I didn't know much about copyright at the time.
Sure.
And it turned out I had to contact BMI and I got a letter of approval. They didn't charge me anything, you know, and I had to give that letter to Disney and they allowed us to play that. But then another challenge was that I had the guitar solo in that song I had written for saxophone. Well, now you have a soloist and he's going to be aiming one direction. So we had to coordinate 2 kids to play the solo, both facing out. So it was an interesting, but it was a lot of fun. You know, all those challenges you look back on and it's like, we made that work. And
I remember when we combined the 2 high schools into one, I was the band director for a couple of years. And I was really the first one to take the band to Disney World. And it was a big deal. And it took 135 kids. And my own 2 children were pretty small. I'm guessing they were about maybe 10 and 8 years old. And they said to me, Dad, you mean you're going to Disney World and you're not taking us with you? I said, no, I'm taking 135 other kids and I can't look at you too. I says, I'll take you in the summer. That's what I remember about it. And I did. We took a trip in the summer, but it was crazy.
Yeah, we had, my family came down sometimes, you know, but one year I was there during my daughter's 3rd birthday, I think it was.
Oh.
And that was not good, you know, and I felt guilty. And so I told the band staff, you don't need to come with me, but I have this idea. I'm going to go and get all the princesses to wish Morgan happy birthday.
Oh, there you go.
And they all went with me. And it was the most fun. Like we waited in these lines with all these little kids and their families. And I don't know, you know, if people all watching will know Jim Stillwagon, but Jim's a big guy and we're all in line to see princesses. And Jim's not shy about making jokes and like he had people cracking up in the line, but I got all of these videos of the princesses and then I got in trouble because I had no idea that Sleeping Beauty had another name. So we get Aurora to say happy birthday and I say, and that's the only time I got a Disney princess to break character. I was like, so what are you from again, Aurora? Like I didn't know. And she literally got mad at me. And she lost character for like just a minute.
Oh, that's funny.
Threw me daggers with her eyes, and the band staff would not let me live that down.
Well, hopefully Morgan forgave you then.
And Morgan forgave me, yeah.
After all that.
Yeah.
That's funny. So we talked briefly about all of the different positions that you held in STEAM music. That's new to me.
Yeah.
That wasn't there when I was teaching you. STEAM, STEAM. And tell us a little bit about that, because you say that it's where kids build their own instruments. And I have a video actually of you playing a carrot clarinet. I'm going to show it, but tell us first.
Yeah, so, you know, the STEM initiative came in years ago, and science, technology, engineering, and math. And then, you know, arts people said, you know, the arts are a big part of that, you know, and so arts should be included. And, you know, so CAD drawings, a form of art, you know, people who are in architecture are, you know, artists in their own right. And music should be part of that. I mean, people who build instruments not only for the mathematical aspect and the engineering of building an instrument that can play in tune, but also the artistry of, using different metals, the shape that they create, and,
Yeah.
I mean, everything. So that's something that I gravitated towards when they had asked me. We had lost a position when Fred Danchenko retired, and we were fighting to get that back. And they said, if you can create new courses that meet today's standards, we'll look at getting you another position back. So I proposed this STEAM class as part of, that initiative, and it passed. And so then I had to put my money where my mouth was. And I have to give credit. There's an Australian guy who I saw do a TED Talk. His name is Lindsay Pollock, and he makes instruments out of everything. So I thought, that's my hook, is to get the kids in the room and literally get a drill and a saw and a clarinet mouthpiece and a funnel and just do what he does and make this carrot clarinet, and it hooks them in, and they make a bamboo flute. They make an African log drum, and we even had them make a ukulele. It didn't have the full body. It was a practice ukulele, but it can tune. But they use math skills. They, in some cases can engineer how they want the slots to work. It's like really exciting to kind of put all that together for the kids. And I always ask if a kid can play piano. I've played the Charlie Brown Peanuts theme, Linus and Lucy on the Carrot, and you'll play the video and let everybody see this one.
Yeah, let me show this video.
Not bad for a carrot.
Yeah, for a carrot. That's pretty funny. That's a very, very innovative kind of thing. I like it.
Yeah.
So after the marching band, after, teaching, well, you were still teaching, but while you were teaching, you were at least a part founding member, or you founded the Hot Metal Brass Band. Is that right?
Yeah. So what happened is I resigned from marching band. The district was making cuts, and I didn't want to be locked into that for 30 years. I think School Band and Orchestra magazine said the average is about 10 years for someone to last in that position, and I was at 11 at that point. So, and I loved doing the marching band, and I missed it. It was a little bit earlier than I wanted to get rid of it, but then I needed to fill that time, and I missed playing. I played with the kids as much as I could. I was just a big kid as the band director, I think. But I got a call. I was playing churches as much as I could, and a friend of mine, Tom Coyne, was the church organist at St. Max in Homestead, and he called me and he said, we have a concert series through the Catholic diocese, and he said, it thrives in some places, but he said, we have trouble getting people to come out to Homestead to see this when it's all classical music all the time. Is there any chance you could come up with something that might interest people more for me? And I said, Tom, I don't know how well you know me, but this is going to get dangerous if we're not careful, because I do crazy things. But he explained what he's looking for, and I said, well, what if I do a brass quintet, but I do more of a jazz kind of thing? And he said, yeah. He said, you need to fill an hour of time. So I arranged an hour's worth of music, basically gospel and religious music, but in a jazz style. So you played the one piece, The Whole World in His Hands, and we did Saints Go Marching In. Those were two of the originals. And I arranged a piece in college that I edited and made better, called The Lost Souls. But once we rehearsed the first time and started playing some of that music, I said, man, we need a reed player. Like, this doesn't work, the Dixieland kind of New Orleans stuff, without somebody playing clarinet or saxophone. Like, we need that. And I already had asked Ray DeFade to play soprano sax on the one song, Lost Souls. And so then he wasn't at that rehearsal, so I reached out to him and I said, "Can you bring your clarinet and just improvise? I'll just give you the first trumpet part and you go to town." And then, from then on, instead of we named ourselves the Hot Metal Brass Band, and had Brandon Barnes on drums and Skip McAuliffe on second trumpet. And
I have a picture. I think this is this?
Yeah, that's the original group there. And your nephew Nick was on trombone and baritone. And
yep.
Jim Stillwagon, who's a West Mifflin graduate and a Pine Richland music teacher now, and plays with River City Brass Band. And Jason Allison and I were actually college roommates at IUP, and Jason's a very fine French horn player and plays with River City and subs with the symphony, and plays freelance all over. But that was a lot of fun, and we enjoyed it and said, oh, we should build a book. So now we have a book that's like 250 songs, and we don't play often enough now, but COVID kind of put a pause on it, and we're coming back. So.
Well, speaking of COVID, I have a picture of you. I guess this is teaching remotely during the COVID thing.
Yep. Yeah.
That was interesting because how do you manage ensembles?
The ensemble was the biggest challenge,
right?
Yeah, it was the biggest challenge. I mean, we used Zoom because it was better technology than like Teams or Google Meet. You got more of a music sound, but it worked best by showing the kids what you expected and then listening to them separately, and then teaching them how to record themselves was a big part of it, and you would give them assignments and they would record. But I did so many I should have sent you some of those. I did so many split screen videos of the band tunes where I played all the instruments. My basement was filled with I brought every instrument home for the time that we were at home. And then once we were able to be in the school but still teaching remotely, it cleared out my basement and made my family happier.
I have another picture. This is a more recent picture of the Hot Metal Brass Band. I'm trying to think.
Yeah, so we have Kevin Clark there, and Jack Furchak is on the drums. So the different people, Kevin and Pierce Cook on the tuba, and Jack Furchak, who both of his daughters were in my band. His daughter Becky was my drum major for a couple years, and then Skip and Ray and Jason are still there, and me. I mean, we have so many. I'm so fortunate that the Pittsburgh area has so many great musicians, and through my relationship with West Mifflin and Kennywood, I was able to bid and win the bid probably 12 years ago for Kennywood Holiday Lights. And I mean, I hire like 20 to 25 musicians every year to play, because if I were there for all 18 to 20 dates that Kennywood needs filled, and my wife would kill me for being out there playing every night during the holidays. But I mean, there's Bob Patterson playing sousaphone. He plays trombone some nights, and there's so many guys. I mean, Doug Reichenfeld plays trumpet, and graduates, like Tim Brucher, I get to play with a lot. Not so much since we're both trumpet players, sometimes, but with the hot metal at Kennywood, it's fun too, because if we can't get somebody on drums or somebody calls off, I go and play the drums. And if we can't, there was one legendary night where I played sousaphone. That was not great, but but I play saxophone some nights there. It's good to, as a music educator, keep up on those things and be able to play, and
because you're teaching them
things there. So
I have a video of that Hot Metal Brass Band. I think it's the video you guys doing the Saints.
Oh, okay, in the Brentwood Parade, I think. Yeah.
Let me play this. Kevin Clark playing trombone. Now, he was a guest on the show too. Very talented guy. Yeah.
Yeah, that Brentwood Parade. There's so many people there, so we take requests on the fly. So I have to play charge when someone asks me to, right in the middle of the song.
That's funny. Yeah.
And I would bring up my fancy dance moves, but that little crossover step was because the truck started moving, and I would say how impressive it was that I kept my balance, except I think Ray DeFade was literally 80 years old and he didn't have any issue. I was the only one that lost my balance.
That's great. And Ray was also a guest, I think, back at the beginning of September. He was a guest on the show too.
Yeah, I watched that.
In fact, I've had 3 DeFades on the show.
Yeah.
So far.
There's a lot to go around.
So besides the Hot Metal Brass Band, you also played with several other groups throughout the Pittsburgh tri-state area, including Wayne McCouga Big Band. And Wayne McCouga was a graduate of West Mifflin North High School, older than I am, but back in that day. And then the Tuesday Night Big Band, the Pittsburgh Doo-Wop Big Band, William Dell and the Wee Jams. I knew some of the guys in that group, Jazz Conspiracy, and many musicals that you freelanced and did a lot of freelance playing. So you've done a whole smash of things, different things. I have a picture. I think this is the Tuesday Night Big Band.
Yep, at the Oaks Theater.
That name, Tuesday Night Big Band.
Yeah, so they practice on Tuesday nights. So they play gigs any night of the week. I no longer, well, I sub for them still, but they practice every Tuesday night. And,
okay. And is that Andy Yelch playing keyboard?
Yeah, that's Andy on keyboard.
He was a guest on a program too.
Yeah.
And who is that? It looks like to me Rick Mansfield conducting or up front.
Correct. Yeah, Rick Mansfield. Yeah. That was Rick and Joe Campus split those bands, and there was a jazz side and a doo-wop side. The Pittsburgh doo-wop Big Band was basically a different configuration of the same group. And
you mentioned Joe Campus, and I have a video that he scored. He arranged Nessun Dorma.
Correct.
For you to play as a solo. Let me play. It's a little clip of it. Let me play this. That's the first time I ever heard a big band play Nessun Dorma.
Yeah, Joe was very creative, man. He wrote some good stuff, and
for sure.
And he challenged the trumpet section a lot. For a trumpet player, he was merciless.
Yeah, right. Well, you know what? The thing I remember about Joe Campus, so my second year as an undergrad student at Duquesne University School of Music, Joe was the director of the jazz band, and I was playing piano. And I'd heard his name, but I really didn't. I'd never met him or had anything in a session with him of any kind. So now I'm sitting there playing piano, and he puts these charts out, and I'm like, oh, they're flying by, you know. So it was pretty amazing to me. The very, very creative and talented writer. I really enjoyed doing his charts, playing his music. And of course, I had a guest on not too long ago, Benny Benack Jr. And, you know, his father and Joe were basically the duo at Clairton High School that, you know, kind of like the Jim Toosey and Ray DeFade at TJ, you know.
Right, right.
Yeah. Yeah. So great, great people. Like you said, there's so many great musicians that came out of Pittsburgh and, this area. It's amazing. Uh, you played with a group called Magic, and I'd like to play this little video of you guys playing Soul Man. This is right here. Let's see. There you go. When I first saw that video, it looked like you were in somebody's backyard. Then I realized there were lines like parking. It was a parking lot. So it must have been a parking lot next to a house.
So that was during COVID. So I got asked to write arrangements and play with that band, and they're out of Leechburg. And all these bands, you play in little clubs, and it's very rare nowadays to play like a big concert experience. And we do a lot of outdoor stuff in the summer. So it was during COVID, everybody was locked up, and that actually was an HOA that wanted entertainment in the neighborhood where I live. And so they were hiring bands. So when I found out they were doing that, I said, well, I have a band. We, could set up and do that. And fortunately, they were willing to come from Leechburg, and we set up in the parking lot. So those are the townhomes on the other side of my community. And behind the camera would have been the pool and the clubhouse. And so then that's like a gathering place. And they had food trucks and had a band, and it got everyone out of their house, and you could see people when you were during that quarantine time. So it was kind of a neat thing to do.
Very neat. Yeah, very cool. So tell us about your involvement as music coordinator with the Hamilton Presbyterian Church.
Yeah, so when we were about to have my daughter, we were looking for a church, my wife Amy and I. And my mom went to Hamilton Presbyterian Church and said they had great music all the time, and we should come visit and see the church. So we went and, started going there every Sunday and seeing what they had. And they did have a nice sized choir, did some creative things in the summer, bringing in guest artists and things like that, where most churches, the choir's off and you just go in and it's the organ and that's it for the summer, and a vibrant VBS, Vacation Bible School program. And so we decided to join the church. Well, unbeknownst to me, my aunt Gail and my mom had both said to the pastor and the organist, hey, my son plays trumpet. And both of them were like, yeah, who doesn't play trumpet? And just to give you some context, at that church, for holidays, they would often have a trumpet trio. It was Danny Rose, who played with the Shriners and the circus bands back in the day and was a fine trumpet player. In fact, it's a whole other story. I probably shouldn't go down this road, but I'll at least summarize. But during my college years, I auditioned for the President's Own Marine Band and only made it past one round. And, was out of my league as a bachelor's degree student because everybody there was fantastic. And, but that said, the winner of that seat and probably still playing there was a Brentwood trumpet player that went to Brentwood High School that took off of Danny Rose and was the first cornet player, if he's not still, for years for the President's Own Marine Band. So Danny Rose could really play. Don Pickell was playing trumpet as the Upper St. Clair band director. And there were two other trumpet players from the church that were both really good trumpet players. So they would always have like a trumpet trio or a trumpet quartet. And so they didn't need another trumpet player. But anyway, when I joined the church and, George McClintock was the organist, and he said, oh, we'll have you play in the summer. And when I came in, I had a couple pieces, and he was impressed, and he threw the hymnal at me, and can you play something, play along with the hymns? And I was able to transpose, and so he realized, oh, maybe this kid can play the trumpet, but before long, it sadly, through people aging and passing away, and Don Piquel got busy with his job at Upper St. Clair. I was the last man standing in the trumpet section, basically. But George started relying on me more, especially as he aged. And I would arrange for musicians to come in. I would arrange the hymns for them to read so they didn't have to transpose or make up an arrangement. And I think I've arranged most of the Presbyterian hymnal now, if anybody needs any tunes. But and just helping him plan special music, and eventually, it came to the end of my marching band career. And boy, one of the things I'm most thankful for with Hamilton Presbyterian Church is, when I resigned from marching band, George took it upon himself to look up what I made, went to the church session and said, we need to hire Devon as our, on our music staff. And I want to give him, and he matched my marching band salary. So I saw no difference. He took it out of his pay because I was helping him. And it was just an amazing gesture, of a human being. And,
Wonderful.
And the church in general. I mean, I'm so fortunate that both of my kids do music too. And, they bared with my children, singing the offertory or the prelude or, a featured solo. And, I learned from, great teachers at IUP that said, musical experience is what builds you as a musician, and you don't have stage fright if you're just used to performing in front of people. I mean, that I know from coming over to your house that your Italian heritage probably did that for you. You are always performing and singing at parties and things. It's second nature.
I was very little.
Right. And for me, it wasn't that way. And I, have learned to use my nerves to my advantage. But, my kids, like, they just get in front of people and play. And that's really thanks to George and his wife, Abby, and the congregation and the pastor at Hamilton, like just letting them always go up, no matter if it's an actual cello concerto or if it was, Mary Had a Little Lamb, George would say, as long as we put Jesus in the title, nobody will care. Jesus Had a Little Lamb could be a cello piece. But
that's great. I have a couple of things I want to talk with you about, but this one here is the Vacation Bible School, and that's your daughter next to you, and some of the children, I guess, that attend the Bible school. And what is that sign in the back says lights, camera?
So that's our theme. One of the unique things about Hamilton Church is they don't buy a prefab Vacation Bible School package. They come up with it. The committee does that, and then I get tasked with creating the music for each day of the week. And it's a week long, so I make sure we have 5 songs that go with the Bible stories. And my daughter Morgan is fantastic. She's going to school for elementary education, and she is very musical. She sang and acted in the musicals at Baldwin High School, and has helped me with VBS from the time she was in 5th grade, I think. So, and she's turning 21 this week, so that's a long time.
So this is a question I wanted to ask you. There's a picture of you and your son Carter, your daughter Morgan. Morgan is the older of the two, right?
Yes.
And you said she's elementary ed.
Elementary and special ed, but she still sings, and that's us performing at a wedding. That was my niece's wedding, but we've been a Smeal trio for a couple weddings. And
I knew that she sang and she did very well, and I wasn't sure if she was a music major. That was one of the things I was.
But it's funny, she goes to Slippery Rock and was undecided when she got there, and I wanted her to talk to Cassandra Eisenreich, who was Cassie Ronanelli when she was in school and married Sam Eisenreich. And,
Sure.
but I'm taking her to talk to Cassie about possibly being a music ed major. And we run into Katie's Locus, who's the Dean of Special Education. And so Morgan decided to go into elementary and special ed, and is very fortunate to have Katie there as a guide. And it's funny, these West Mifflin connections just continue to help.
And you never know how things are going to turn out. My wife, Lana, she has a degree in elementary ed and special ed, and she taught a little bit when I was in graduate school. But then after, she had our first child, our son, I decided to stay home and raise the kids. I'll just work some more. That's what we did back then, And she ended up in a whole different field, being the manager and, kind of basically the controller for our company, and managed our bands and different other groups as well. But she has those degrees. Now, Carter is a senior, and he's getting ready to go off he is definitely majoring in music. He's a wonderful cellist, and he auditioned at one of my alma maters, the University of Miami.
Yes.
Has he decided where he's going to go yet?
He is not yet. We have about half in, and he was accepted to the University of Miami, and among others. So it's still a possibility. So I'm sure he was accepted to everywhere he auditioned, because he is. Just so I don't forget, by the way, it's
what's that?
Dr. Leckenby is Katie's Locus now.
I just wonder where he got all that talent from.
Me too. I know. It's funny. I just saw a quote today when I was doing lesson planning, and it said, for boys to remember that the only man that wants you to do better than them is your father, right? And I thought that was a fun quote, and appropriate now that you just said that. But I mean, he's passed me up in so many ways. Like, he's so dedicated to it and willing to do whatever.
I remember him with hockey skates on.
Yeah.
When he was much younger, and because my grandsons were playing hockey, we would bump into each other at some of the rinks, and I'm so glad he chose music.
Me too. It was interesting. He took me out of my comfort zone and forced me into coaching. I don't know where that kid went that was so shy that he wouldn't go on the ice without me. And but I had a lot of fun those years too, going to USA Hockey Coaching School. And
well, my older grandson, who's a senior this year as well, Nico, he's actually going to John Carroll University. He's going to be playing hockey there.
He'll stick with hockey.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's been accepted into the hockey team. So, the other one dropped out of hockey, and he's playing the piano a lot. But
okay,
I'm sure he's not going to be a music major, but he loves music, loves playing,
right,
which is good. But he's smarter than I was, so I guess that applies not only to the father, but the grandfather.
Right.
So he'll be some kind of a good job, and better than and be able to enjoy music as an avocation.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
That makes a lot of sense. So let's talk about Devon Smeal, the composer and arranger. Now, I enjoyed listening, and we're going to play for the audience this piece that you composed. It's made up some hymns, but it's a very majestic piece. I like it. And also, you almost all the groups that you were affiliated with, you did arrangements for throughout, because I can remember from a long time back you doing arrangements. And that's always a good thing, especially when you're an educator. If you arrange for your group, you can make them sound as good as they're ever going to sound, because you know what the strengths and weaknesses are. You can write for the strengths and weaknesses of the group, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the marching band years were a lot more fun, I think, because I arranged a lot of those pieces,
Right.
And when the kids would give me an idea for a show, oftentimes that show wasn't available with a publisher, and even, I have to be thankful for Ed Hansek, because I remember being interviewed by you and he for assistant band director, and I had brought my little portfolio like they tell you to. And, you and I had a real nice conversation that day about arranging, because I had some arrangements in there that I had done for Baldwin Band and that. But arranging Walking on Sunshine for Ed, and we did that one. I don't think he asked for copyright permission, but we did that at Disney, actually, and that was such a thrill for me to have those pieces played in these large venues, and even at band festivals among my colleagues and their marching bands. I remember one year we did Hot Hot Hot. Ed had me arrange it, and I was announcing for the band that year as well, and I'd go in the press box, and there was another arrangement of Hot 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 from like Hal Leonard or whatever, and ours had this big moment where I had to yell in the microphone, "How you feeling?" and the band yelled back, and there were like all these twists and turns in the arrangement. Well, the other groups were like, "Where did you find that arrangement?" And it's like, it was a nice, it was a kick. Like I got a lot out of that myself, and I always hope the kids did too. But like you said, when those bands early on, I had 210, 220 kids on a field, and like 20 to 30 trumpets. I could write 3 trumpet parts. Whereas you buy the Hal Leonard and you might have 2, you might have 1, and it was, and we just had great kids and still do. So
the other advantage was timing. I remember one time when I had the band, Stevie Wonder came out with that song, "I Just Called to Say I Love You," right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was just #1 on the radio. And it was so easy to score it for marching band, right?
Right.
I'm going to do this. I did it like boom. The next week we were playing it on the field, and everybody's like, first of all, the audience is like, "How did they get this song so fast? How do they learn this song? I just heard it's on the radio." And then the other thing was the other band directors are saying like, "Where'd you get that arrangement?" Like,
right.
It's not published yet. It was probably published about 3 months later,
Yeah, exactly. We did a Pittsburgh sports show, and it was the anniversary. It was a mark, round number anniversary of all 3 sports teams winning championships: the Pirates, Penguins, and Steelers. And I had a student, so it all came into place because I had a student. I think her name was Jen Maholage, and a relative of hers was the Pirate Parrot and Iceberg for the Penguins. So when I found that out, it sealed the deal. We need to do this show. And I looked in the publishing catalogs and online. Nobody had arrangements. Like the Boys of Winter is the Penguins theme song. It's like a fanfare. And We Are Family, there was like an ancient arrangement, but it didn't fit the band. And then I did the one I didn't write was the Pennsylvania Polka. I did a stock arrangement of that, but we had the guy come out as Iceberg, and we entered the field from the back sideline in a company front, and I had herald trumpets with the Stanley Cup banners on them. And like you said, that arrangement worked because I could write that fanfare like theme for the Penguins and make it fit to that 8-5 step coming onto the field, and give Iceberg time to come forward and wave at everyone. And then he ran into the trainer room and stripped off, I shouldn't give this away probably, stripped off the Iceberg costume and put on the Pirate Parrot one. And we did the fight song in between to give him time. And then we did We Are Family. And he came right into the center of the kick line at all our home games when we did that show. And, Pirate Parrot's kicking his legs up with the starlets. And it's just a lot of fun.
Great. Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. You've had a great career. I have one more video I want to show, and this is of the composition that you wrote for your church, the Hamilton Presbyterian Church. So let me play this, and if you have any comments afterwards, you might want to say why you wrote this piece
Sure.
before I play it.
Sure. George McClintock was just a great man. He passed away recently, and we became close friends, our family with his family. His daughter was a choir director at South Allegheny, and he and his wife ran Hamilton Music. Literally, we celebrated George's 60th anniversary, and then he passed away months after that. So to be an organist and choir director for 60 years, and he was actually a French teacher at Upper St. Clair. And when he retired, he went into the travel business, taking foreign language groups to Europe, and also in his spare time got trained and worked in a hospital at St. Clair Hospital. He was like Forrest Gump, basically. But he became such a great friend. And for his 50th anniversary at the church, for him and Abby, his wife, the church committee asked if we could do something special, and asked if I would write a piece, because they knew I was doing so much writing and organizing for the instrumentalists. And so I on the sly asked George about a few of his favorite hymns. And, so I chose a hymn, and then, I couldn't nail him down on scripture. I wanted to write something to a psalm or something, and I couldn't nail him down. So I know it's been done before, but I chose the Lord's Prayer, and just wrote original music to the Lord's Prayer. Mm-hmm. And we were so fortunate to have people come from all decades of his 50 years, and the choir was huge that day. And I had a full orchestra, and I think in that orchestra there probably were a dozen West Mifflin, either current or former students, because of my connections being from there. I just saw that one picture. Nick Saunders was playing violin, and I think Tim Brucher was playing trumpet, and Jim Stillwagon playing tuba, and like I could go on. I think Kelly was away at college, but Ashley Taylor might have been playing flute. Kind of slips my mind a little bit, but what a great time, and to conduct that wonderful group of musicians and the choir, and it was a thrill for me to, again, when you write something and you put it out there, it's just getting that back in music, is a great feeling. So
yes, it is. I agree with you 1,000%.
Yeah.
Well, let me play this video. Let's watch this. I actually used the whole piece, so you're going to hear the whole piece beginning. Nice piece, Devon.
Thank you.
Good work. I like it.
Thanks.
Very majestic too, you know?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's
Nice.
what I was going for. So,
And you're right. When you walk into a church or a concert hall and you hear your piece being played, it's an amazing moment. It's like you gave birth, right? It's just you can't replicate that in any way, shape, or form. You know that feeling.
well, I certainly can't replicate giving birth, so I'm glad I could compose instead. I had to laugh at the one picture where you said I was conducting vacation Bible school as there's a little girl running around my legs. You don't really conduct.
Didn't quite fit the music, but it was good. I wanted to get
it was good. Yeah, it was funny.
Very nice, and great having you on the program. I wish you a lot of success, continued success, playing and writing and teaching. You have a few more years to teach, which is good. Enjoy it and have fun and keep influencing kids. That's what that's all about, right?
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me on.
A lot. I know there are a lot of kids that have high statements about how you've helped them and been a mentor to them, and that's what it's all about. It's really.
It comes full circle. I remember the reason I was on your radar was because I student taught at North Allegheny, and Ernie Pontier, of course, was there. And I didn't teach with him, but I was with Frank Farina. And, Frank's thing was always to teach with kindness. There's no reason to teach any other way. And I feel like I've rarely strayed from that, and it was really good advice. And I hope my students would corroborate that. So
I remember Frank very well. He was a very fine teacher, and
absolutely.
Ernie, he was my first guest on this podcast, and so it's always fun. Well, Devon, it's been nice having you on again, and I want to thank you for being a guest, and again, wish you all the best and the best to your children, Carter, especially with his making a decision. That's a tough decision. So.
Well, thank you very much again for having me on.
All right. You take care. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
And there you go. Another episode of Memories of a Musician with Devon Smeal, another terrific educator, music educator, conductor, trumpet player, arranger, composer. Devon's done it all with music. He's done a great job. Looking ahead, to next Wednesday, April 1st. Be sure to tune in to meet my special guest, Donna Groom, pianist, vocalist, and entertainer. Donna Groom is best known as the lead female vocalist with the Steel City's famed vocal group, Jimmy Beaumont and the Skyliners. Groom has supported renowned musical acts ranging from Martina McBride to The Temptations, and piano great Roger Williams to adult contemporary chart toppers Air Supply. The multi-talented Groom also has served as pianist and conductor for Little Anthony and the Imperials. Americans coast to coast have heard her voice on PBS's national My Music series, harmonizing on everything from doo-wop to country. Donna has performed with the Wheeling Symphony and also performed with the Orchestra of the Alleghenies and Colorado Symphony. Donna Groom on Memories of a Musician on Wednesday, April 1st at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you for joining me this evening, and have a great evening.